A couple weeks ago, uh, we all got the news of George Foreman passing, and it was somewhat of a shock to me that because there wasn't any information or anything that came out that he was even sick.
Yeah.
But the passing of George Foreman kind of hit me hard because back in my day, or even back before I moved to Las Vegas, the first time I even heard the name George Foreman was at the Mexico City 1968 Olympic Games.
Yeah.
And
Waving the flag around after he won.
waving the flag around when he won, and I actually tuned in to the track and field because you remember back then John Carlos and Tommy Smith did on the victory stand did the Black Power salute. And you know, because of justice, etc., that our country was going through at the time. And like you said, and then the next thing you know, they showing Big George walking around with the American flag, but still, I didn't have a personal interest in George. Now, the college that I was attending back at the time, Cal State University of Hayward, George Foreman's brother, Roy Foreman, was going to school there. So I knew Roy. Yes, I knew Roy. And it wasn't until I moved to Vegas and you know, in 71 was the big fight with Frazier and Ali, fight of the century. And then from there, the George Foreman name was popping up. But it did not resonate for me in regards to George Foreman until he fought Joe Frazier in Kingston, Jamaica.
Down goes Frazier.
And the famous line that Howard Cosell that goes down, etched in people's memory, is "Down goes Frazier." Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. And that's still epic till today when it comes to that fight. And I was shocked. I'm sure you were shocked as well. But I didn't know back then that George, as he was getting on the scene in the heavyweight division, often was with Sonny Liston, trained somewhat with Sonny Liston, and I remember this. I remember this interview that George gave years ago, Birdman, and he said, "I was fighting this guy, and the guy covered up, and George said, I just threw a punch right into his defense and I knocked him out." And George says, when I did that, at that point in time, I thought I was invincible.
Well, you know, he was such an inspirational guy. Now, I had the opportunity to referee one of his fights. And he was one of those people that, there's only two people in my career that was just flat mean. And that was old George. I didn't do the new George. I did old George.
Old George.
And I remember when I went into the dressing room, you know, to give the instructions. And I went in there and he gave me that look, you know, like, and I, you know, kind of backed up and said, you know, now Mr. Foreman, you know, he was the only person that somewhat intimidated me a little bit, the old George. But years later, I met him at a convention, and I relayed that to him, you know, that we had first done. He kind of laughed and said, "Well, that was then, and this is now," and the wonderful transformation that he made from the old George to the new George, and the people that he inspired. Once he went through that transformation, you know, he found God and did such wonderful work in Houston, where he's from. And I remember a guy that I used to work with used to talk about the Fifth Ward, which is where George grew up, Fifth Ward, and it's rough down in that Fifth Ward. So the transition that he made, and what it speaks to is the transition that this wonderful game that we have, and we love boxing, the
Yeah.
transitions that they can make
Yeah.
in a person,
Yeah.
in their life, in their livelihood, and in their vision for the future.
Yeah.
He was quite a man, and we'll miss him.
We'll
Definitely
miss him. I actually was an inspector with the Nevada Commission, and the first time I met George was when he came into the dressing room, and this very same jacket that I wore as an inspector, I'm wearing in honor of him because the things you said, I ditto.
Yeah,
I ditto.
absolutely.